So, my message title is Salt of the Earth. And I wonder if anybody has ever said to you, you're worth your weight in salt. Maybe not. But I bet you might have heard someone say something along these lines before. It's too bad Susie couldn't come, but let's not tell her that they let us in for free because we don't want to rub any salt into her wounds, right? And you might have heard something like this. I always take Sally's vacation stories with a grain of salt because she tends to exaggerate. And I know some of you have said this one when on your drive to work back to the salt mines, right? Well, this week we look at a couple of idioms from the Bible and the metaphysical meaning to what those might be, and explore what some of these concepts have to do with our lives and that spiritual journey that we are on, and why we are the salt of the earth. But let us first affirm our statements of truth together, please. I am a child of God. I am deserving of good in my life. I am accepting my good now. So, in case you weren't good in English, or you didn't like literature class, or you just don't remember, an idiom is, in a nutshell, that's another idiom, a phrase or fixed expression that has a figurative or sometimes literal meaning. An idiom's figurative meaning is different from the literal meaning. For example, if I say that you are the salt of the earth, it doesn't mean that I'm saying that you're a mineral in the dirt outside. No. It means something more than that. In fact, the salt of the earth means the most worthy of people, a very good or worthy person. So wouldn't you say that all of you are salt of the earth?
Yes.
I can't hear you. Yes. I would hope you would affirm that one.
Yes, I know they are.
Well, I think they are too. So, but do you know that if we claim that for ourselves, do you know really how much salt is in your bodies? Well, I've got a little history for you here. The human body contains many salts, of which sodium chloride, also known as common table salt, is the major one, making up around 0.4% of the body's weight at a concentration equivalent to that of seawater. Did you know that? I bet some of you did. So a 110-pound person would contain around 200 grams of sodium chloride, and if we do the math, 40 teaspoons of salt. So this is 40 teaspoons of salt that a 110-pound body contains. Okay? See, it's loose in there. So do the math. If you weigh 150, then, it's probably up to about here. And if you're more than that, it's overflowing this container. But that's how much salt is in our bodies naturally. Amazing, huh? We are the salt of the earth then, aren't we? And then you have to look at if we're the same equivalent as seawater, we have the same salt ratio as seawater, does that make us salty dogs? Well, maybe after exercising, or sometimes when the air is not working too great in here and we start getting a little sweaty, huh? But actually, salty dogs is another term for a sailor, if you didn't know that one. But my point is that sometimes we can get so hung up in the literal meaning of things that we forget to look at a metaphysical meaning or something spiritual to what it is that we're reading or doing or participating in. But we're going to look at the Bible first and see Matthew 5:13. Sorry, I missed the 5 up there. You are the salt of the earth, but if salt has lost its taste, how can its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything, but it is thrown out and trampled underfoot. Now I know that there are probably a lot of churches that have used this to beat people up. And if we take it literally, it does sound a little harsh or a little extreme, doesn't it? I mean, if you're not good for anything, we're going to throw you out. Now all of us have been in that place in our life where somebody might have thought we weren't good for anything, or that we did something that we didn't think was, good. And that means that we should have been thrown out. I mean, that would probably put all of us in that boat, wouldn't it? Yeah, so we can't look at it that way. We can't look at the fact that that's what these words are saying. And we don't want to be tossed aside, and we for sure don't want to be trampled underfoot, do we? No. But then my next thought about this quote was, can salt actually lose its saltiness? You ever think about that? Well, I got a little bit for you on this one. Salt, sodium chloride, is so chemically stable it will not lose its saltiness even after being stored dry for many years. However, there are ways in which salt may appear to no longer be salty to us. Historically, salt has been obtained from crude sources such as salt marshes and minerals such as rock salt. This contains the stable sodium chloride plus other components. Well, sodium chloride is readily water soluble. Okay, so if this crude salt were exposed to condensation or rainwater, the sodium chloride could be dissolved and removed, and the salt could in effect lose its saltiness. But it actually isn't. I mean, if you pulled that still out of it, it would still be salt and it would still be salty. It might get washed away with the rain. But if you go down, or even the debris that's left, if you driving through Tennessee, where the hills are and the rock walls, you can see where the water has poured out of there after the winter, you know. And there's white stuff on there. Well, that's leftover salt, I'm sure, from the moisture, because there is a touch of salt in everything. But even though the salt is there, or gets washed away, it's still salt. Salt is salt. You got me? Yeah. Now the other thing that can happen, though, is that the salty flavor that is detected by our sense of taste can be affected. If there were a physiological change in the functioning of our taste buds, salt consumed may no longer taste the same, but this would not be due to any inherent change in the salt itself. So basically, salt is salt, and it is contained in us, and it is contained in seawater and in the earth, and the only way it can change is in our perception of it, right? We could be taking a medication that could change the way we taste things, and so things might not seem salty. Or on the other side, we might use so much salt on everything that pretty soon we don't even taste the salt because we've just overloaded our whole system with salt. And so, you know, finding that balance within there. But it doesn't change the fact that it is salt. It is still salt, no matter what. So here's my question for you. How is this example a metaphor for us and our relationship with God? Don't you think that you could easily see yourselves altering your thinking or ignoring what is truth? You could water down your thinking, and yet at the same time, God is still in our lives, isn't it? God is God no matter what. I mean, just like salt is salt, God is God. Whether we perceive Him or God in our lives, or whether we ignore that fact. But we can get so busy that we don't take time for prayer and meditation, and that throws us off from realizing that truth in our lives, right? And we can forget about that unlimited source that is God, and forget about the abundance of that source, and think that we, start going down that pity pot road, right? Oh, poor me, I don't have anything. Oh, I've just not been blessed today. Yeah, you're up and walking, you are blessed. But what we do is we forget about that connection. We forget about that inherentness that is in us that can express through us. And we forget that God is God. I mean, just like salt is salt. I mean, sometimes I see people get a plate of food at a restaurant and they grab the salt and start shaking it on there before they even taste the food. How can you do that? Whether you forgot that somebody probably put some salt in there at some point, right? Or even the salt that exists in it that is there anyway. It's the same thing with God. Each one of us have God within us. And sometimes we forget that about somebody else too, don't we? We look at them and we start thinking, why are they doing that? We get on that judgment road. We start saying, hey, why are they doing that in their lives? Why are they making those choices? Why are they wearing what they're wearing? Why are they doing this? Instead of seeing that God is God within each of them too. And then on the other hand, we can feel and see and taste that truth that is God, can't we? And when we stay centered on that, oh my gosh, it makes a huge difference, doesn't it? Everything has better flavor. Our lives seem more blessed. We see people as they are. We no longer go to that place of saying, oh, I don't like that girl's hair. You know, I mean, we don't even think about it. It doesn't even enter into our realm of thinking. We see beyond those physical things that tend to block our way of expressing from that good. And whether we want to believe that truth or not, that God is in all things, God is in all things. I mean, you know, I've gotten to the point where I just, even a little bug, I don't want to kill it, you know. I mean, I have killed some spiders, and maybe a cockroach or two. But hey, you know, it like, I know God is in those things too, even though they're not beneficial in my home. But the thing is that we have to see beyond those things sometimes, don't we? So when we think about that Bible passage, what is it really saying to us? What is it that we are supposed to take from this? So I thought about this and I thought maybe it is revealing our own value. You know, our own value. We put value on the salt. Are we putting that same kind of value on ourselves? Well, I want to give you a little background about salt. And this is really kind of fascinating. Because I was raised in Wichita, Kansas. And right outside of Wichita, Kansas is Hutchinson, Kansas. Remember that name? No, it's a little bitty spot. And that is actually the home to the Carey and Morton salt companies. Yeah. And this is actually a very old photo of the plant. Okay? And of course there's, okay, so you can see Kansas. There's nothing out there. Somebody just plopped in the middle of nowhere and started building this plant, right? But they started mining salt in 1887, and it's 650 feet below the earth. And it was formed, the salt bed was formed in the Permian period 275 million years ago, which is really quite fascinating. And they have mined that salt over the years. Now the thing is that it's no longer the home for, well, Carey salt is no longer in existence, but Morton salt is still around. And but they don't use that rock salt because what they're mining is rock salt, and then they pull out the salt to use for table salt. But they don't use it for that anymore. Now what they're using it for, they still mine there, and they have a museum there. You can go down, take tours, and they store stuff in there where the mines have been. Because you can put paperwork down there and it'll last forever down there because of the conditions of the salt mines. It's really fascinating. But anyway, what they use, that's rock salt that they're pulling out now for, is for the highways in the Midwest and the East Coast. So guess what? Small world, isn't it? Last year when Georgia was putting down, and land and everything was putting down that rock salt on the highways, it probably came from Hutchinson, Kansas. That's them mining the rock salt. Isn't that cool? Yeah. And it just, to me, it also represented the oneness of God. Because, you know, you never know how far you are or how close you are connected to something else, you know, or someone else. And think about those people that worked in those mines forever and that lived there and all of that kind of thing. But it's kind of interesting because the thing is that salt is such a tiny, little bitty speck of something. Like, you know, I could pick up one little granule. But we put so much value in these little granules. And we've done this over time. I mean, throughout history, salt was an invaluable commodity. Long ago, they used it as a currency. They paid people to work with salt. You know, that's how you got your worth your weight in salt. And it has also been a controversy. Countries have fought over salt over time. And salt, of course, was used to preserve meat, and which kept it from spoiling and kept the food safe for people and allowed that sense of security around what they were eating and everything. But you know what? Salt has also been used for religious and pagan ceremonies. I don't know if you know that or not. But you ever hear the thing, take a pinch of salt and throw it over your shoulder to ward off evil spirits? That's a pagan ritual. It is. And some of you probably still do it, or you spill the salt shaker and you pick it up and throw it over your shoulder. And that's okay. Those kind of things get locked into us, and you know, it depends on how we view it and take it in. But the importance of each one of those little granules far outweigh anything that we can feel and see and taste. And the thing is that each one of those little granules that we give value to is just like each one of us. We are invaluable. And if we can use that salt as a reminder to reclaim our importance on this earth, then we are moving ahead by leaps and bounds, because salt is everywhere, isn't it? You can't go anywhere where you don't see a salt shaker sitting there. And every time you see that salt shaker, you can say, hey, I'm as valuable as that granule of salt. It's an excellent reminder. Because we don't have to go to war with our own mind. We don't have to beat ourselves up over negative thoughts or feelings that we've had. We don't need to bring up those old memories that cause us turmoil or cause us to go down a path of negativity. No, because in every one of those memories, there's at least one little granule of good. And all we have to do is think about that one little granule of good and focus on that. I don't care what you've been through. There was something good in everything that you could focus on. Even if you had a conversation with somebody, a very short conversation, I'm sure there was one granule of good that you could focus on. And when we start focusing on that little granule of good, the value of everything changes. And that's all we have to do. We can preserve those memories that way. We can, instead of them being negative experiences, we can preserve them in thinking about something sweet and something good. You know, our oldest daughter, we had a little struggle with because she was kind of stirring the pot with Grace, and when we got to Kansas City, we found that out. But my thing with her has always been that I focus in on how sweet she was as a little girl when she said to me, I had decorated her bedroom. We adopted her at 5, and I decorated her bedroom just spot on. But it was yellow. And she came up to me and she said, I don't like yellow. I want my bedroom to be pink. And she told me this over and over again. And so I thought, okay. So she goes off to kindergarten, and in one day, I changed her whole bedroom to pink. And I put all these hearts all over it and stuff. And she comes home, and I still remember her face to this day. And I said, I need to show you something. And so I think she thought I was going to say something about that she didn't pick up her clothes or something. But I take her up there to that bedroom, and she goes, it's pink, it's pink, it's pink. And she was like so excited. And I just always remember that joy in her face, you know, and that just changes everything. And that's all we have to do is focus on that one little granule of good. And then we're sending that. And we're giving value to that experience, no matter what happens. And we can do that with everything in our lives and everyone in our lives. Well, salt is also a powerful cleansing tool, and it has healing properties. I know you've all heard of Epsom salts, and I recommend it to everybody, from sore muscles to splinters. I mean, that stuff is fabulous. And we know this, you know, that they have used that for thousands of years too as healing properties. And yeah, it's got a little different salt component to it than table salt, but it's still from the salt family, right? And the reason why I bring that up is because this message is also related to the healing power of salt. And I wanted to share with you that it was exactly a month ago, I did a message on Steps of Truth. And I shared with you that Dr. Barber had given me a great and powerful bit of wisdom that said she would stand in the gap with me. And in fact, I prompted everyone to make that commitment that they would stand in the gap with each other. And it was powerful. But what I found out is that there was more to the message. The next week, after I did this talk, she came in. And she comes in on Wednesday mornings for the Spiritual Rebels group, which is a powerful group. And those girls rock in there. But and you know who you are. Anyway, But she told me, she said, years ago when I told people that when I started telling people I would stand in the gap with them, I took a little bowl of salt and put it by my front door. And she said, I want to show you this. There you go. So she said, I put this bowl of salt there, and every time I thought about them or if I came and went, I saw me standing in the gap with them and giving them strength and power and integrity and will and all of that, to know that they have it within them. And this is actually Dr. Barbara's salt bowl. I asked her to bring it in today. And it was powerful, and I said, oh my gosh, I said, that is something else. But the thing is that, she has been doing this forever. And when I said that I would stand in the gap, when I was talking about steps of truth and I was saying stand in the gap, I used the example of mortar in the bricks. The mortar is like, that holds the wall and makes the bricks have integrity and strength. But if the mortar starts chipping away, then the wall gets weak and it can tumble down or not have that strength anymore. So standing in the gap is like the mortar. And Dr. Barbara has been doing this for years with people. And when we see that and everything, it's powerful. But this is what I didn't realize when I first picked up her bowl of salt, and she was, she handed it to me like this, and then I said, oh wow, and I touched the crystal in there. Well, if you could feel this salt, it is a solid block of salt in this dish. It has turned into mortar. And I say that because she has stood in that gap with people with conviction, and she is definitely the mortar to people and helping people. And this is an example of it, a physical example of it. The salt has turned to mortar. It's still salt. And I bet if you licked your finger and tasted it, it would still taste like salt. Dr. Barbara's shaking her. Huh? Oh, pick it up. Yeah, see how it is solid. And I know that she's doing that for all of us each and every day. And this is powerful. This is a powerful example of standing in the gap with each other and being that mortar for each other. Filling in those gaps and having that. And her healing and cleansing and powerful dish of salt is showing that. And I love you for this. I do. I love you for everything, but hey. But I went home that day with my little dish. I had actually brought this dish. I had got it for Christmas from one of my girlfriends. I brought this dish here because I thought, well, we could use it for something for hospitality. What I didn't realize when I brought it was there was going to be more to the message, because we've never used it for hospitality ever. And so when she showed me her dish, I went in the kitchen and I got this out. And I said, I'm taking this home and it's going to be my dish. I mean, God had me bring this dish here in January probably, but I had no idea what the rest of the message was going to be. And when I wrote that message about steps of trust and standing in the gap, I had no idea that this dish was involved. But when we stay open and value our relationship with God, with each other, more is always going to be revealed. And Dr. Barbara bringing in that dish, more is revealed. And what you don't know about this little dish, and I'm going to show you right now. There's my little dish. This is truly a picture of my little dish. On the bottom of it, it says hope, which I relate to as faith and belief. And I thought, what a powerful dish, and what a powerful thought, and what a powerful representation of what we're doing here. So my little dish is speaking to me every day because I have it in a place where I see it each and every day. And I'm standing in the gap with whoever I need to stand in the gap with, and whoever I think of in that moment. I send that love, and I send that sense of value, because I value each and every person as much as you value a grain of salt, or as much as people have valued a grain of salt over this time. And I invite you to get your own little dish of salt and send out that love. Because each and every little granule is a reminder to us to value each and every bit of good that is in our lives. that is consistently coming forth through us as us. And listen, we have at least 40 teaspoons of that good within us, don't we? Yeah, so it should be easy for us to make it happen. And all we have to do is know it for ourselves, believe it, have faith in it. And then we will know that we are the salt of the earth. Thank you for being here today.